let's make a table style that we like the look of that we can then quickly apply to dozens of tables in our grant application so that it looks like we are a unified and organized team. So I'm going to start by making a table here, and I'm going to paste some text into there just so we've got something to look at. And now that we have a table in Word, we get access to these options up here so we can see the existing table design styles that just come built into Word. And right now they're all in the default Word colors because we haven't, this is just a fresh document. We haven't set anything on here yet. But presumably we have a color scheme going for our university or wherever we're submitting this large grant application from. So let's set our, hopefully you've got a named color scheme here. So let's set that. And you would think that now when we come over here to look at our table styles, we would be able to see them in our nice color scheme. But these thumbnails are bad at updating. So they're still showing the color scheme from before. And also, if you make new styles or delete styles, you'll find that these thumbnails are bad at updating. So I'm going to save this document, close it, and reopen it. And then our thumbnails will be updated. Okay, we're back. So now, let's see. These are now in different colors that match the theme that I set, the color scheme. Okay, so we've got two options for making the table style that we're going to reuse over and over again. We could start with one of these built-in ones and then modify it to our liking, or we can make it completely from scratch. It's really your choice. Right now, I'm going to start with modifying an existing one. One pain about modifying an existing one is it's always going to be wherever it is in your list. Whereas if you make one completely from scratch, it will show up here in this custom section. So that's one reason to make them completely from scratch. Even if we rename this one, it's always going to be down here. So you have to kind of hunt and peck for it. So let's see, I'll call this Kate. So in this interface, we can select the part that we want to edit from this list. And then most of the options for actually making those edits are going to be down here. You can do some things here, but this is less reliable and confusing. So I would just select whichever thing we're going to want to edit here and then rely on this section down here. So we can start with the font. We're doing everything in Arial, and it's a NIH grant where we think we can get away with 9-point font. So we're doing that. We're setting that for everything. Now for the header row, you could select something different if you wanted to. I'm also going to make this Arial, and sure, let's do it bold and also 9-point. I do think it's worthwhile to set the font in here, but I will say this. I have had multiple clients where they say on their computers, when they go to apply these table styles, the font size does not carry over, even though we set it so carefully in here. I still think it's worth setting in here, but we're also going to use a paragraph style because we are going to double up on that. Make sure we really get the size that we want. Okay, probably the most important thing that you want to change on these tables that is a pain to do if you have to do it manually over and over again is these cell margins. So the default on Word, it's not a default on Word table. It's not, here, let me make it back to the whole table. Okay, sorry about that. The default is to have what I think of as kind of a weirdly large too much space in the front here. So I like 0.02 for the left and the right. And then for the top and the bottom, I do like a little bit of space there. So we'll do that. Okay, so let's apply the table style that we've been working on. You can see it here, Kate table. Again, if you don't see that there, save, close, and reopen because these thumbnails are terrible. Okay, so there we go. It's coming along. Some things to note here. This table currently has a checkbox for banded rows. I don't actually want to do banded rows. It's just not my jams. If I had a really long list of the same information, same type of information every row, maybe I'd be into that. Not usually the case for me, and I don't want that. It will confuse me when I'm in the interface, as I'll show you in a minute. We do have a header row, so that's good. And I'm going to, for now, uncheck the first column. That is something we can edit in here. Here we are. So these are all the things that we can have special settings for. One header row, one first column, the last column. Total row is the row at the bottom. And then you could do the even and odd rows and even and odd columns. That's if you're doing those banded rows and banded columns like I just unchecked. Let's work on grid lines for now. So we're doing the whole table. And then to do the grid lines, the borders and shading, we just go here. And I want to do in the inside of the table, light gray lines, but I want to do thicker black lines on the outside. I do think it's helpful to have, if you're going to have a dense grant, which these P30s and whatnot usually are, having particularly this having a line that defines the edge of your table, I do think is helpful because there's going to be text all around this. Okay, so that's starting to look like I like it to look, but let's do more. Maybe I want a black line around the header. I'm not actually sure I do, but let's pretend that we did so that you know how to do it. Okay, 1 point, black, okay. If you are having a situation where you are not seeing some of these outer border lines like you expect, check to make sure you don't have one of these things checked unexpectedly, because that can happen. So we've got green for this top row here. Let me make sure you know where that setting is. So that would go to header row, and then we could set it to anything we wanted here. This is where we could also change that font of the top row, make it all caps. Why not? Okay, there we go. We can also set the first column as an option, so that we could also make be a darker color. To set the font color, we would set that here. Okay. So then we could turn on the first column. So you could imagine that, you've got a dozen tables in your large grant proposal, and half of them kind of have a title as the first column and half don't. So you'd be able to turn that on and off. However, I know a lot of people like to do tables that are actually set up like this, where they do a top row that is merged, and up here it says like table 1, blah, blah, blah. That messes all of this up because you can only have, in these table styles, you can only have one header row. If you are one of the people that want to do your top row as kind of the caption, really, don't use this first column. You could still use the table style. It's still going to be really helpful to you. But if you want a different background color for what is the second row, it's not the top row now, you are going to have to manually apply that each time, but it's not that bad. You could just do that to each of your tables. You've still saved yourself a ton of time by just being able to select any table and apply this style. And I have a second video showing how, now that you've got this table style, how you can quickly go and apply it to your dozens of tables. However, I do like to do one backup. So even though you remember we set the typeface, the font size, the paragraph spacing, we set all of that for this table, I have had problems with that actually carrying over and transforming text in other people's documents. So we can back that up by also including a paragraph style. So here we go. I'm just putting in the same settings I did that I want for my table text. So I do like to do tighter spacing for if it's a multi-line. This is important. Okay. And I'm going to save this as... This paragraph style is a more powerful way to change typeface and font sizes than the table style. So you'll see in the next video, we're going to carry over this paragraph style and this table style into our new documents and transform the tables there.